What's up, it's Todd, and today I want to talk about how to show interest without being needy. Maybe the most common question asked in all of game. And basically, it's a little bit of a complex topic, but I'm going to address it from 3 different levels so that you will never have this problem again. Number 1 is what qualifies as an event? What events stand out for a girl? What events don't stand out for a girl? And how can you set yourself apart? Number 2, how is it that you can show a lot of interest without coming off as the guy who tried really, really hard? It's a theory I call it net versus gross interest. And then finally, I want to talk to you about how sometimes an action that would be considered needy on its surface actually is the opposite. How sometimes something that would be needy is actually being entitled. So let's get into all of that right now. Before I dive too deep into interest and neediness and all of that, I want to ask you kind of an unrelated seeming question, which is this. Do you remember the clothing you wore yesterday? Next question, do you remember your first kiss? Now, why do I ask these 2 questions paired off against each other? Well, the clothes you wore yesterday is something you probably should remember because it was very, very recent. Your first kiss was a really long time ago, so you probably shouldn't remember it. However, odds are you remember your first kiss, and odds are you don't remember whatever you were wearing yesterday unless it stood out to you in some way, unless it was something special about it. And that's the key idea, something special about it. See, most things that happen in your life, you don't remember. You don't remember your commute to work most days. You also don't remember most conversations you have, and neither does the girl you're talking to. So if you have a boring, mundane conversation where there are no emotional spikes, where there's nothing challenging, where there's nothing like surprising or out of the ordinary, you will not be remembered at all, right? And that's kind of almost the worst possible outcome, is that you just are this mundane, blah, unmemorable conversation, but most conversations are that. So first and foremost, you need to be willing to take risks. Think of it this way. This is like the range of normal experiences. This is like the highest, the lowest of the normal range. Anything that's in this range will be forgotten. It's not memorable. But if you do something, an extreme positive spike up here, it'll be remembered. If you do an extreme negative spike down below the normal threshold, now it will be remembered. And so game and you as a person talking to a girl will be remembered mainly by the emotional spikes that you create, the positives and the negatives. And that brings us to the idea of net versus gross intent, or net versus gross interest. So the idea here is, well, I'll give you an example. A lot of guys come up to me and they say, hey Todd, how is it that you give girls so many compliments and it's so clearly sexual in your conversations, and yet at the same time, the girl doesn't know she can have you, the girl's still chasing you, the girl's still in suspense. Whereas I give a girl 1 or 2 compliments and she absolutely knows she can have me. How is that possible that you can say so many more of those intentful things? And the reason is ratio. The reason is, yes, I do say more things that are positive spikes, more things that show interest in the girl. However, I also do things that show disinterest, or that show a willingness to walk away, or like disdain, or the fact that she just disappointed me, whatever. So there's actually a ratio. And so in terms of how sexual the conversation is, or how man to woman the conversation is, that's going to be the gross interest you've shown, how many things you've shown that convey a man to woman nature. As far as the who's in charge of the set and who has power, that's going to be what I call the net interest, as in the ratio or the difference between the positive and negative spikes that you've had. So the key thing here is to mix them up. The key thing is to not just be Mr. Positive, positive, positive guy, because then you're the sweet, easy, nice guy that she knows she can have. Also, don't be Mr. Negative, 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 because now you're the bitter, butthurt asshole, right? What you want to do is have that mix where you are exciting, where you are unpredictable, right? People respond to that which is unpredictable. I'll only go into this briefly, but for example, gambling addicts. Why do gambling addicts get addicted to gambling? It's because of the variable payout. If you pulled a slot machine and won every time, aside from the money aspect of it, you wouldn't want to keep playing. It would actually become quite boring to you. But the slot machine where it pays out sometimes and doesn't pay out other times, that's very exciting because you never know when the next payout's coming. And to be fair, if, say with like training animals, if you have a dog come when it's called and you feed it every single time, it will come when it's called. But as soon as you stop feeding it, it will stop coming when it's called. However, if you have it come when it's called and you feed it most of the time, but not all the time, even when you stop feeding it after, it will keep coming to its name for a very, very long time afterwards because it's still expecting that periodic reward. It's the same kind of thing with a girl. If you are unpredictable, if she doesn't know when she's gonna get rewarded by you or when she's gonna get punished by you or get a negative emotional spike from you, she's gonna get addicted to you. She's gonna want your validation. She's gonna wanna chase you. She's gonna become very emotionally wrapped up in you, and that's what you actually want. So the key is, number 1, do things that are emotionally relevant. Number 2, have a ratio of positive and negative emotional spikes. And number 3, be unpredictable. If you're doing these 3 things, you are very quickly gonna be memorable for a girl, get a girl chasing you, and you're gonna get that girl seeking your validation and wanting approval from you very, very rapidly. So this is the key of what I call net versus gross interest, and it's one of the absolute keys to game. Another area where guys have massive issues when it comes to interest and neediness is with regards to persistence. Following up, reapproaching, texting a girl back, those types of things. And that makes sense, because if you are texting a girl over and over and over again, oftentimes guys are doing that out of neediness. Or if you are going and trying to approach a girl time after time after time, it is quite likely that you've been rejected the first few times and it looks very, very needy. However, I want to make a couple points about this. Number one, in a lot of cases, being persistent is the only option. So even if it is needy, it's still your best bet. So for example, let's say you are in a crazy loud packed nightclub and the girl needs to go to the bathroom and you judge that she does like you, she just legitimately needs to go to the bathroom. Now the non-needy thing would be to be like, okay, go to the bathroom, come find me later. However, she may not even be able to find you later even if she wants to. Also, asking her to come back is asking her to do something that is like overtly slutty and try hard and most girls won't do. So the right move in this case, even though it's a little needy, is to walk with her to the bathroom, say you gotta go yourself, so you'll show her where it is, and then just go stay, have a conversation, stay in the general area, and then pick up the conversation when she leaves the bathroom. Is it slightly needy? Yeah, it is, but it's also the only move that's actually gonna work. And so many guys are so caught up in this idea that like, oh, if I do it, it's a little bit needy, and they lose the girl because of it. Here's the mentality you should have. You should have the mentality that you're a high value guy, so even if this thing is a little needy, it's still the right thing to do, because in your presence in the future, she's gonna have so much positive stimulation and so many good things and good associations and high value things about you going on that it's gonna overwhelm whatever neediness there is. So actually, in a weird way, following her and being needy is actually still the high self-esteem, high value, confident thing to do, right? The other one I wanna make, or the other point I wanna make, is that sometimes being needy isn't actually needy, it's entitled. Here's a situation I see all the time. Guy and girl are texting back and forth, they set up a tentative date, guy texts one more time to set the plans, and the girl doesn't get back to him. And it's getting closer and closer and closer to the time of the date. It's like 3 hours before the date, 2 hours before the date, and the guy's like, oh, I don't want to text her again because that would be needy. No, it wouldn't. It would be entitled. Here's how I know that. If you had a friend who you'd known for years, and you had plans with them and they didn't text you back a couple hours before, you would text them like, hey bro, what's up? Or hey, or ... question mark, something like that, and you would actually feel entitled to the date. You wouldn't be worried about, am I seeming needy? You'd be like, we have plans, are you wasting my time? And so standing up for yourself in this case, not in a butthurt way, not saying, what the fuck, why aren't you texting me back? Because that's actually butthurt, but just acting the same way you would with a friend, where you're like, oh, did you not see my text, or something like that. That is actually entitled and positive rather than needy. And in fact, how bad does it look if you had plans with a girl, you texted her, she didn't get back to you, and then you waited till past the plans, and then you text her the next day like nothing happened? That shows absolutely that you are like too scared to push for the plans. That's about the most low value thing you can do. So in a context where you've done nothing wrong and socially you deserve a response, following up again to get that response is not needy. Now, if you followed up 6 more times to get the response, or if you act butthurt, that's needy. But if you just, calmly and in the same way you would with an old friend, hit her up and let her know, that's not needy. And what I really want to get at here is that there's a difference between quality of response and quantity of response. So you can follow up with a girl a lot if you do it in a non-needy way. You can follow up with a girl a lot if you do it in a confident, high-value way. You can follow up with a girl only once or 0 times if the first time you do it seems insecure, seems needy, seems try-hard. And so there's the quality of your effort, the nature of the approach you're doing, the nature of the communication is gonna matter more than the amount of times that you've communicated. So it is okay if you're a high-value guy, it is okay if you're coming from a good place to go ahead and hit the girl up that one more time. It is okay to go reapproach a girl, assuming you had like a good interaction the first time, all right? So a lot of guys get so worried about it seems needy that they actually do the truly low value, truly reactive thing and actually end up in essence looking even needier. So understand that if you're a high value guy, you can get away with and trump a lot of these needy things, and understand that in order for game to happen, you need to be interacting with the girl. So anything that's allowing you to interact with the girl whereas you wouldn't have an interaction otherwise, even if it is slightly needy, is still the right thing to do. Heck, for that reason, from that level, even approaching a girl in the first place is a little needy because you clearly want something from her. But if you don't approach her, it's never gonna go anywhere. So doing the approach, is it needy? Maybe a little bit, but mostly what is it? It's confident and entitled. And I want you to think from that perspective instead.